we are now live on YouTube. So at 3:03, I will call the special meeting to order and ask the city clerk to please call the roll.
Yes, Councilor Beta,
Here.
Councilor Casa Sanchez,
Here.
Councilor Garcia,
Present.
Councilor Lindell,
Yes, here.
Councilor Rivera,
Here.
Councilor Romero Worth,
Here.
Councilor Vihel Coppler,
Here.
Councilor Villarreal,
She's excused.
thank you, and Mayor Weber.
Present.
Thank you. You do have a quorum present, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have on the agenda today item 3A regarding, well, why don't you tell us what it is, Madam Clerk?
Yes, so this item is the request for approval of FAA grant number 3-35-0037-052-2020 at the Santa Fe Regional Airport in Santa Fe, New Mexico, in the amount of $1,875,000 for airport development, reconstruct taxiway G Phase 1, supplemental 2018. And Mark Baca is presenting.
Mr. Baca, do you want to give us a quick overview of what the matter is?
Yes, sir. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for taking time out of their day to day and jump right into it. So this grant, back in 2018, I applied for it. This is part of the supplemental appropriation funding that the federal government had, that part of that $30 billion that they put out for infrastructure. And at the time we applied for it, we got it. Therefore, we were able to start the design and get ready for construction. We've since done that. The design has been completed. We've gone out to bid. The total cost of the project is $2.1 million. So we will be expecting another $735,000 grant, and we'll be talking about that one on Thursday. So for this one, we'll just be this will just put us in line to get the process started so we can get the contract and everything else run through you. So this is just accepting the grant from the FAA at this time, and you will be seeing more documents coming through moving forward. So I stand for questions after that.
Thank you. We can get a motion in a second and then ask questions of Mr. Baca or have a discussion. Is there a motion on the floor?
Move to approve.
Second.
Councilor Vihel Coppler has moved to approve and Councilor Romero Worth has seconded. Councilor Rivera, is there something you want to add as the person who's been working with the airport for us?
If Mark, if you can explain to the governing body why extensions aren't something that the FAA really looks at in a favorable manner, and more for the ordinance change that I'm going to introduce than what we're talking about now, but just so everyone understands.
Okay, yeah. So so with the FAA process, when we apply for this, like for instance, when I applied for this grant, they said, okay, well, we're going to put you in this spot for $1.8 million. What happens next is they go through their process of all the other airports and all the other projects. And as we get going, and once we come to the point where we're at today, where it's been bid and they've accepted the bid, they've accepted the design, then they wait for the Secretary of the Department of Transportation to say, okay, I'm going to fund this project for Santa Fe. Well, that leaves 3 days at max for approval or for acceptance from the sponsor or the airport sponsor, which is the city of Santa Fe. So it's a really fine line, I mean, and a real tight schedule. So the FAA generally, I mean, when we ask for an extension or we ask to delay the process just so we can get it in line with some of our meetings that we're having, that way we don't have to have these special meetings, they just frown on it and they just don't accept that stuff. So that's why we're in the situation we're in, where we need to have these special meetings. I was fortunate with the CARES Act. The CARES Act, we fell into the same same situation, but fortunately, the city clerk staff helped me out to get on a special meeting that we were having, dealing with the pandemic, if you recall. So the ordinance that Councilor Rivera is going to be proposing is kind of to shore up the shortfall that we had a resolution at one point back in 2017, but it's no longer valid. The previous city attorney misinterpreted, or I can't remember if we changed the ordinance or she misinterpreted the ordinance. But anyway, that's why we're here today. So.
All right, and in my discussions with the FAA, they frown on extensions because then they'd have to allow those extensions for every other airport throughout the country that had similar situations. Is that correct?
That is correct. So within the Southwest region alone, there's 150 airports. So every project that they'd have to bend the rules for everybody else as well. And it's just a practice that they will not enter into. So they understand that, different cities and counties and states have different rules as far as procurement goes, but this is kind of their way of doing business. And there's just, it's their way or the highway, basically.
So the ordinance change that I'm introducing doesn't take away authority from the governing body, but allows us to sign for those monies or that agreement and then have a retroactive approval. And if the governing body decides for some reason not to take the money, we could go back and then tell the FAA that we don't want it. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That is absolutely correct. So basically, just like the resolution that they used a couple of years ago, it just allows, it's basically the governing body allowing either the mayor or the city manager, whoever they decide to allow them to sign this agreement. And then at the very next council meeting or governing body meeting, we bring this forward and they ratify it. Now, if they choose not to take it, then there's no harm, no foul. I mean, this does not, by somebody signing this agreement, doesn't necessarily mean that we are obligated to it. Does that make sense? I mean, this is a reimbursable agreement. So we spend the money, they give it back, right? So they just take that money out of their coffers, give it to another airport, and hopefully we get in line for next year if we turn it in.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Baca. Did you want to add anything, Ms. McSherry?
Thanks, Mayor, Councilor Rivera. Yes, just a couple of things. I wouldn't say that anyone misinterpreted anything. Our ordinance on contract authority has changed a number of times since 2017 when the resolution was passed. So I haven't done a whole analysis as to what the appropriate authorities would have been at that time. But currently, the resolution does contradict our ordinance. And so I was not comfortable signing that the city manager had the authority under our current contract authority ordinance. And so that's why I recommended that the governing body still needed to approve the grant agreement because it does exceed the authority currently authorized. And then express permission needs to be given to the city manager otherwise. So that's why we're doing this. And that's why I did recommend we make a change to the ordinance that reflects the intent of that resolution from 2017. And so that's what has been drafted now.
Yeah, I appreciate it and understand and know that this will really take care of things from here moving forward. So we're not having to do these special meetings anytime this comes up. So thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Garcia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No real questions. Just wanted to quickly thank Mr. Baca for looking out for the city and applying for these resources. It really will come in handy when the city's in the financial crunch that it is now. These resources, as you know, will help to transform the airport and hopefully encourage more travel. We know that the city is a world-class destination, and anything we can do to encourage travel directly to Santa Fe will only benefit us. So just want to quickly give you a big thanks and a shout out. I really appreciate you going after these resources.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Romero Worth, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to quickly ask Mr. Baca and also make the point that these monies are fairly hard to come by, aren't they? I mean, it's not just a question of, oh, we couldn't get it together, so will just put it back in and we'll come back in line. That's not a position that we want to be in. So I just want to make sure that everybody realizes this. I mean, when you get federal money, you want to take it. It's not as easy as just putting it back in the kitty and waiting your turn for it to come back around. So I think this is very important what we're doing here today. And thank you for bringing it to us. And if maybe you could just confirm that statement, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So you're absolutely correct. It's kind of like a reverse credit, right? So right now we're in good standing with the FAA. We worked really hard to regain the relationship that we had with them. Prior to this, we're in the top of the list. They'd come to us and say, hey, Santa Fe, what kind of money do you want? And it seems like we're heading in that direction right now. I mean, I've been really fortunate, lucky, if you will, to get back on that gravy train to get these monies, because it is very difficult to get back in favor, with the FAA once you start giving them money back.
Thank you. Any other discussion before we move to a vote? No other hands. In that case, could the clerk please call the roll on the motion?
Yes. Counselor Beta,
Yes.
Counselor Cassett Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Lindell,
Yes.
Counselor Rivera,
Yes.
Counselor Romero Worth,
Yes.
Counselor Vihel Coppler,
Yes.
Mayor Weber.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion has been approved.
thank you. Thanks, everybody. And Councilor Rivera, before we would, there are no other items specifically on the agenda, but did you want to introduce your ordinance at this time?
Yes, I'd ask the Madam Clerk if she could read it in, as it's on my phone and a little small for my old eyes.
Madam Clerk, have you got the ordinance in front of you?
I don't have it, Counselor.
I can
Don't
do it.
believe.
If you'll trust me, Councilor Rivera, I've got it here.
Sure, I could probably work it in if you want, but
Well, it's your ordinance, so please, yeah, take off your glasses so you can see better.
all right. I'm introducing an ordinance amending section 2-4.6 SFCC 1987 to allow the city manager to enter agreements accepting funds that are offered to the city without time to place them on the next scheduled governing body meeting, with ratification by the governing body at the next scheduled meeting for which an agenda has not yet been posted.
Excellent. So that will go through the committee process now and should take care of situations like the one we're calling this special meeting to deal with. So thank you.
Thanks.
I don't think there's any other business before us at this time, and so I will accordingly adjourn the meeting and thank everybody for assembling. And we will make sure this matter gets postmarked before the end of business today, so it gets back to our friends at the Department of Transportation. Thanks, everybody. Meeting is
Thank you.
adjourned.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.